Okay, now for Freud, he had his sun conjunct Uranus, which was seeing for a Taurus, seeing the radical sun, having unique ideas and being excitable. It's unusual. It's not what you expect specifically of the Taurus, but Uranus goes through Taurus. It brings out the excitable in Tauruses. The guy knew one good friend he had Uranus and Taurus, and he ran a radio show. He was a talk show host. He was exciting. He was practical, exciting, but he was in his element. But he was really on that exciting edge. I did shows with him for 12 years, Con Stevenson and Hamilton. But anyways, this was. He has this sun. He had an excitable nature. He could see. He had a breakthrough. His confidence, following his own ideas, seeing how books. He was really strong in seeing this new way. That was his strength. Jung came in, being much younger, 20 some odd years younger, and was a student that started learning from him and going to it, but wasn't exactly sold on. He listened, he reflected, he related, but he wasn't exactly backing up 100% because he had his own take on things. He didn't totally swallow the sexual sources of problems, that there were other sources. So rather than the Freudian sexual complex, he had more of the other issues. That was the Sun Neptune, again, making him more evasive and aloof to that. So he would have it, whether Freud might not see it, he would go along with it, he'd be mirroring it. At some point, he drifted away. We couldn't keep doing it anymore. So Freud, when he put his energy, his sun in the 7th house, put his energy into Carl Jung's chart, went into his 3rd house. When he went into the 3rd house, he would naturally assume he's teaching, he's giving information to Carl Jung, who's supposed to be the student learning from this. It's affecting his 3rd house of communication and thinking. But as it went in, as his sun went into the 3rd house, it conjuncted his moon, so he could pick up on it right away. It was reaching, he would feel it. His sun going into the moon, that's great for a student-teacher relationship, but Pluto was conjunct his moon. So he put the energy in, he would take it in, but then he would control, not this, it's not just this isn't exactly right, it's not exactly that way, I see something, I feel differently. So that Pluto would confront, Freud would put the energy in the 3rd house, but there would be a confrontation, a resistance, a block to the teaching, or to what he was expected of it. So in a way you could say, Freud was probably a little naive in his excitement and his idealism and going towards it. He didn't expect to be confronted or challenged, but he would meet the challenge. He would feel that. Okay. Jung, on the other hand, his sun went into the 9th house of Freud. So Jung was getting ideas and getting his information about relationship and making sense of it, making knowledge and putting it in his own package. But Jung's idea, his confidence went into Freud's 9th house of his principles and beliefs. It went into his confidence was going into whether he believed in. He would go into, you believe in me, we're doing this together, this is going to affect the world. So Freud's burning on his ideas. He's much older and he's going on it. And Jung's coming in, but he's putting his energy, his somewhat evasive energy, into the area of belief, in the area of understanding, 9th house. More principled than just knowledge. So, and as it went into his chart, as his sun would go into his 9th, in Freud's 9th house, it would be square his Venus, so it wouldn't be what Freud would want. It squares his Pluto, he would be threatened by it, and it squares his ascendant. So instantly putting his confidence into the 9th house, they did not agree philosophically or spiritually on principle, but they were working together on a specific thing. And eventually Jung would leave, because Freud would be threatened by it. And this paradox was there right from the beginning between these two charts, between these two people. Again, miracle enough that they met. They just had somewhat similar interests in the system in a similar way. And they ran across each other and they had some time together, and it affected both of them strongly. The moon, their basic needs, their lifestyle, their basic needs. Jung's needs, it's in Taurus. He knows how he wants to live. He wants to have a certain comfort, wants to have a certain lifestyle, wants to live nicely, be appreciated. It's in his 3rd house of expressing. He wants to create why we all want to be appreciated. But he isn't quick to say that because I did this, that's why this is happening. He didn't want to put it all because of sex. But he has his moon conjunct Pluto squared by Uranus. So he has a disruptive thing with family, a power thing with mom, and a fear, power thing, a fear with mom, and disruptions and instability with dad. So there was a lot of anxiety in himself about how to communicate with his father or with his parents. So his need to communicate with mom and dad, they weren't in a place where there was easy communications. So even when Young was in school, going to school, there's a point where he had a block, or he was having fits or fainting spells, and it led to a kind of neurosis and his understanding of neurosis. But really, he would fake his neurosis, so he would indulge his neurosis so he could avoid going to school, and he avoided a year of school by doing that. There's the moon, Uranus, the moon in the third house, squared by Uranus and Saturn, but conjunct Pluto. He knew what he was doing. So that's him to himself. His moon went into the seventh house. That whole complex went into the seventh house of Freud's, where he's going to try and, Freud would be relating to this intense neurotic things, and he would be interpreting it on a sexual basis, whereas Jung would always be thinking it's not that, like it's having another side, but it conjuncted his moon conjuncted Freud's sun, squared his MC, conjuncted his Isis, and opposed his ascendant, was in his seventh house. So it really, he put his feelings into relating with Jung, and he's got a lot of excitement. He got a lot of power and excitement from it. He was using himself as a guinea pig almost to see what Freud would say, and Freud was giving his opinions, and they would be debating that. Whereas Freud's moon, it's interesting. Jung's sun is square Neptune. He has this confusion of his goals or his priorities, his heart. The moon and the feelings. Freud has the moon squared Neptune, so he has his dependencies, his confusion about home and family. Now, we don't hear much about it. He had his 5 kids. They stayed in the same place. They lived in the same village until the year before he died, when Hitler was coming into Austria, and he had to get out because they were going to go after him. But his Neptune, the only thing I can think of is he had bad habits. He smoked cigars, and the smoking cigars brought him cancer in the mouth. He fought a long time in his life, still trying to talk about having to fight his health around that and confusion around that. But his moon is in the 8th house of psychology, social values of trust. It's squared Neptune, seeing what's trustworthy, who's not, who's trustworthy, who's not, what's expected, what's not. So he may have had the sexual expectations or the expectations of his needs in his family, and there might have been complications or confusion around that. And I don't know, I'm not sure if he had 5 daughters, 5 kids. It gets personal when you start going down to see how it relates to someone. But his 8th house moon of we're together, we're in this cause together, in this together, we need this. He felt there was a dependency built up, an expectation that wasn't exactly solid. It put it into the 4th house, the motivation. He thought he was motivating. He needed to motivate. It was going to the 4th house of Jung. It's motivating, affecting his motivation. But as affecting his motivation, it was opposing his Mars. So his moon was and his sympathies were going and affecting the Mars, affecting the mode of how Jung was living, trying to get to the source of solutions. But his opposing Mars, Jung was fighting it. He was at odds with his interpretation. So in one way, he was a perfect example because he had this neuroses, but he was the opposite example, contrary to the specific nature of the insights of psychotherapy that happened. It's still, Freud is the father of psychotherapy. It started from there. If you go to universities now, everyone will get Freud. You have to get to fancier things or other levels before you get to Jung. So both of them had a strong influence in the thinking of the world, of the Western world. In the Mercury, how are we doing for time? Good. So yes, I'm putting this together from piecemeal things, from doing the charts, from looking at things, seeing how things came, how they went along. It was interesting that I can see how, in my opinions, and doing their charts over this past few years, it came to me that Freud didn't believe, that Jung didn't believe in the Freudian thing to the same extent. He had more of a father type complex, but really he had the evasive mystical side or confusing side of the Neptune. and was never fitting into the clear, sharp definition of Freudian terms in any case. And like a yin and a yang, two different sides of it. But the Mercury, the thinking, Jung's Mercury is conjunct Venus. He wants to be appreciated for his ideas. He wants to be loved or liked to be appreciated for his ideas. It's in the 6th house of ideas of helping or healing people in Cancer. So being sensitive, being impressionable, talking, being personal to people, and being able to be of service. There's the analysis, and being able to see what people need, what people want, how to express it. He would have a very good manner of talking to people, but a certain amount of worry within himself. So his 6th house Mercury goes into the 8th house of the social conscious. You can see the talk goes into the 8th house of psychology, of death, of depth, of Freud's 8th house. So they think what he likes, what he wants goes in there. And Freud's Mercury is in the 7th house of relating, of sharing, perfect for consulting. But when it went into his 3rd house, he felt he was teaching. His Mercury was going to the 3rd house. He was giving Freud information, or Freud's learning from it. But he's learning from it in a contrary way. It's squared his Saturn, it's conjuncted his Pluto, it opposes Midvan. So Freud's the established teacher by 20-some years. Jung's coming in and he's taking it all. He's set up, he's got all this, but he's not seeing it the same way. So there was adversity there, even in the way they were thinking. The communication was not directly to each other. It was one, they were on 2 different frequencies. So the Venus, what they wanted, how they appreciated. Jung's Venus is in Cancer with conjunct Mercury. Mercury Venus, this is his squaring Jupiter. So need to understand and express oneself, be appreciated, be able to help others, to be of service, be thinking what's healing. This is part of this ideas. Jung's Venus is also in the 6th house, but it's in Aries. His is more impulsive. They have different styles. They want to do, Venus wants to be doing things to be of service. The 6th house, it was also brought in the Martian element of Mars ruling the Venus. Sex causing if you're not happy, it's because of what you did or didn't do, or what you put out determines what comes back. It has that philosophy in the 6th house and affecting your health and your contentment. Whereas with Freud, with Jung, on the other hand, it's in Cancer, so it wouldn't be so much to the passion, it would be more to the mother and the memories and the dreams and the reflections. So his memories, dreams, and reflections, his biography that he wrote, really was his Mercury, Venus in the 6th house in Cancer, going over the situations he ran across. But Freud, we don't have that. Freud, he was attacking situations and seeing how Mars or Aries was affecting satisfaction, what you get, what you didn't get.